the simple 3-step process that you are going to use based on research in order to break the vicious cycle of procrastination and to take back your time and your life. I mean, this is big stuff. And I'm going to warn you, like a lot of things that I share, at first glance, it might sound kind of stupid. This one might even sound a little schmarmy, but this is all research-based. And in fact, I have a copy of the 5-Second Rule book right here with me. I'm on page 145, which is where chapter 11 begins, which is all about the science of procrastination. Step number 1 to breaking this cycle. When you catch yourself procrastinating, forgive yourself. Step 1. The next time you catch yourself procrastinating, step 1 is forgive yourself. And there's a really profound reason why. Procrastination is not about laziness. It's not about a lack of discipline. It's not something you do because you're dumb. Procrastination is a coping mechanism. You just have a desire to feel good right now, and you deserve that. You have a desire to lessen the stress in your life, and you deserve to lessen the stress in your life. I get it. And this first step, to forgive yourself, this comes from research from Dr. Peichel. By the way, he has been studying procrastination for 2 decades. I mean, just imagine that. Studying procrastination for 2 decades. That is a dedicated person right there, and we thank you for your service to all of us. His research found that people who forgive themselves are less likely to procrastinate again. In fact, there was a study that he did. I want to turn to the page. I got the book right here. He co-authored a paper about how students who forgave themselves for procrastinating were less likely to procrastinate on their next test. It sounds silly, but part of the problem that psychologists have uncovered is that when you're somebody that procrastinates, you're really hard on yourselves to begin with. In fact, being hard on yourself is one of the major causes of why you're so damn stressed. And so taking a moment and forgiving yourself, and you've got to actually have a talk with yourself where you are sitting there like, oh my God, 2 hours just went by? Wow, I must be really stressed out. I forgive myself for just blowing off 2 hours on social media. And you know what? I can spend the next hour setting my day up tomorrow for success. Or maybe you see all your bills and you realize you haven't opened those suckers in 2 months. Just go, wow, I haven't opened my bills in 2 months? I must be really nervous about this. I forgive myself for not doing that. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just do the best that I can. I'm going to face this head on. Because the next step that you're going to take, once you forgive yourself, you got to recognize that you're doing it. Why? Because patterns and habits repeat unless you replace them. And so noticing that it's a pattern, catching yourself, forgiving yourself, that is a way we're going to break this pattern. Because the step 2, based on research, you must identify what you're stressed about. So let's go back to the example of seeing bills piling up or getting the second notification that you didn't pay that parking ticket because you procrastinated and now you missed the deadline and now it's twice as expensive. Whoa, I really blew that off. I forgive myself. What am I stressed about? I'm really stressed about senior year of college ending. I'm really stressed about this presentation that's coming up. I'm really stressed that I'm behind on my sales quota. I'm really stressed that my spouse and I haven't really talked for the last couple days and they're really mad at me. I'm really stressed about getting these test results back from my dad. I'm worried about him. When you identify what you're actually stressed about, it loosens its grip on you. It comes out of hiding. And see, I think that stress backpack is an important analogy or metaphor that you can visualize. It's behind you. So you're not like thinking about it. When you identify what it is, you bring it right in front of your face. And because you're now identifying the source of the stress, it loosens its grip. And now what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, well, what would the future me want to do right now? Vidi, the artist in you that has already finished her portfolio, what does she want you to do right now? You've forgiven yourself. You've acknowledged what's stressing you out, which is the relentless pursuit of perfection. What does the future you want you to do? Or Mel, You're zipping up your pants and that bread basket is in there, and, you forgive yourself for blowing this off for so long, and you acknowledge the stress that you feel because you are getting older and this makes you feel like you're not in control of what's going on. What would the future Mel that had gone to see the doctor and has got this in place, what would she want you to do right now? And so that's what you're going to ask yourself. What does the future you want you to do right now? And it might just be the future you being the person that's waking up tomorrow morning. If you're sitting on the couch, 2 glasses of wine in, and you realize you've procrastinated for the last 5 hours, and you've acknowledged it, you've forgiven yourself for doing it, you've acknowledged the stress that you feel because, you are in a fight with a friend or a boyfriend or whatever, what is the you that's going to wake up tomorrow morning want you to do right now? I'll tell you what that you wants you to do. They want you to get off the couch. They want you to pack lunch for tomorrow. They want you to brush your teeth and turn off the TV and the phone and read 10 pages of nonfiction and get a good night's sleep. That's what the future you wants you to do. The future you does not want you to slip back into that vicious cycle and spend another 3 hours watching cat videos and memes and TikTok videos, which we both know is exactly what you would do if you didn't break the cycle by forgiving yourself for doing it for 3 hours, acknowledging what you're stressed about, and then deciding what the future you wants you to do instead. And then finally, use the 5-second rule. Why? This is not just listening time, people. This is doing time. We always say that about the Mel Robbins podcast. Use the 5-second rule. It's one of the most effective science-backed starting rituals on the planet for creating a new habit or pattern. And all you're going to do is you're just going to start. Because after you've forgiven yourself and you've validated what's stressing you out, and you've tapped into the future you who is kicking ass and taking names and needs you right now, I just want you to start for 1 minute. So Vidi, when you sit down tomorrow morning and that self-doubt is there and that procrastination kicks in, no problem. Use the steps. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start drawing for 1 minute. And here's what we know based on the research. Once you make that first cold call, you're likely to keep going. Once you start writing that first sentence on this chapter, you're going to keep writing. Once you hit record on that video, you're going to keep going. Once you fill out the first name, last name line on the application you need to fill out, you're going to keep going. Once you pull up your resume template and you start writing, you're going to keep going. Because the problem isn't your ability to do what you need to do. The problem is you've been trapped in this stress and trauma and nervous system triggered vicious procrastination cycle. And look, I know this sounds like, really? Oh my God. Mel, come on. I was listening to this because I want to be more productive. I want to make more money. I want to get more shit done. I want to have more life balance. Now you're telling me productivity. It's about forgiving myself. It's about calling forth the future me. Why would I want to try that? Well, let's hear a word from our sponsors. And when we come back, I will tell you why. YouTube, you enjoying this? Great. We make these videos for you. You're watching the Mel Robbins podcast. And I want to make sure you've subscribed to YouTube. And I also want to make sure, please support this show. If you're enjoying this, if you're loving this, share these episodes. I know you got people in your life that are struggling with this, so please share this episode. Please subscribe to this channel. All of that helps us grow, and that helps us continue to bring this to you for zero cost. And you know I want to do that for you. Mwah. Back to the show. So why would you want to try that? Let me tell you why. Because procrastination is a habit, and this habit becomes a very vicious cycle. And that's exactly where Vidi is trapped. So let her tell you what it feels like when you don't nip this in the bud. When the vicious cycle of procrastinating on her art and her work is now creeping into other areas of your life.
The worst part of all of this, whatever this is, self-doubt or whatever, wanting to be perfect, whatever this is, the worst part is that this doubt, this fear is slowly seeping into all areas of my life. I know this is affecting all the relationships in my life. And I am just worried that this will take over and destroy everything I love. So I think the question is rather, how can I relearn to believe in myself? How can I relearn to believe that I deserve all the good things that come my way and that I am good enough? How can I learn that?
Vidhi, I love that. I love that you reframed the question, because that is what this is about. See, I told you procrastination was not about productivity. And I also told you that the thing that triggers it was going to surprise you. And that's why this topic is so important. I say every day that it is never too late to wake up and be the person you want to be. And you deserve that. And here's the truth on how you do that. You have to act like you believe in yourself before you believe in yourself. I'm going to say that again. You want to learn how to stop doubting yourself? You want to learn how to believe in yourself again? You want to learn how to not be so afraid or full of doubt or full of perfectionism, which, by the way, is something you learned in order to cope with crap that was going on in childhood. Perfectionism, everybody, is what you do in order to protect yourself from rejection. There's a huge, huge connection between your desire to be perfect, procrastinating, and the fear of rejection. And so using these tools, you not only are going to break the pattern of procrastination, you have a roadmap for the actions that take you to the future you. Because again, you have to act like you believe in yourself before you do believe in yourself. So let me just make this super, super detailed for you. Vidhi, when you wake up tomorrow morning and you sit down in that chair and you walk through these simple steps that I've just taught you based on the research, when you start drawing, you are acting like you believe in yourself. And notice you started drawing before you did believe in yourself. That's why this is so powerful. When you see yourself acknowledging that you're procrastinating and labeling the stress and forgiving yourself for getting triggered by it, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, doing it anyway, because you're the kind of person that picks up the phone or picks up the pen or walks out the door or says that thing or does that thing, and you keep doing that consistently, you know what's going to happen? You're not only going to get the results that you want, you're going to believe in yourself because you're going to see yourself doing the work to get the results that you want. It begins with the action. And that's why I say the Mel Robbins podcast is not a listening podcast. It's a doing podcast. It's in the doing that you become someone new. You cannot wait to feel ready. You cannot wait to feel motivated. You cannot wait for procrastination to disappear. It doesn't work that way. You got to act before you feel ready. You got to act like you believe before you do. And that's why this topic is so important. It's why I believe this will be probably one of our most shared episodes, because everybody struggles with this. Whether you have kids in college or high school, share this episode with them. If there's somebody that you wish would change, this episode will be very eye-opening. If you have somebody in your life, maybe it's you, or maybe it's somebody that you care deeply about that has huge potential, and you're like, why won't they just start doing that thing? Why are they not writing their music? Why are they not starting their channel? Why are they not applying to nursing school? Why don't they believe in themselves? Why don't they just do that thing? I'll tell you why. They're stuck in a vicious cycle. And now you understand it. So send this episode to them so they can understand it too. So let's just start with the question, what is procrastination?
Okay. Procrastination is not the same as delaying. If I'm stuck on the tarmac and my plane isn't getting off and I'm 4 hours late for some appointment, I didn't procrastinate. That's delay. It's not the same as pondering. Pondering is to pause and to stop and think because you're actively thinking about what should I be doing. All right? It's a misperception that procrastination is poor time management. What is procrastination? It's the intentional delay of a target task that is irrational and prevents you from reaching your goal. So you're purposely not doing something, all right, and it doesn't make any sense to do that, and it's going to prevent you from reaching a goal. and people feel uncomfortable about it. And it's maladaptive. Do not listen to the current media people who are coming out and saying, oh, there is procrastination. There's a good side to procrastination. Ain't true. No, everything shows that procrastination is a maladaptive lifestyle. You're missing out on life. Because for the procrastinator, they think the world is all about me. And the world is not about me. It's about we. And if I don't do what I have to do, then you can't do what you have to do. And so it's not about me. I don't like it. I can't do it. I find it aversive. It's unpleasant. It's too much time. Yeah, life ain't like that. So what? All right, life is about us getting things done. All right, there's that expression. If you want something to be done, you give it to a busy person. Why? That makes no sense. Why a busy person? Because the busy person values your time and values their time and knows that there are things that have to get done. All right, so this is not an adaptive strategy. Let me stop there and say, I'm not shaming or condemning anybody who's a procrastinator, because I hope as we get there, I'm going to show you how procrastination is a learned tendency. And that means you can unlearn it. So that's how I would define it. It's irrational. It prevents you from reaching your goal.
So, Dr. Ferrari, you said it's the intentional delay, which made me wonder, do you have to know that you're doing it?
I need to clarify for you something. Everybody procrastinates, but not everyone is a procrastinator.
What's the difference?
Thank you very much. 20% of adult men and women are chronic procrastinators. And as a research psychologist, those are the people I want to study. 20%. Now, you might say, that's all, Ferrari? That's higher than depression, substance abuse, panic attacks, alcoholism, right? And yet, we treat this humorously. I procrastinate. Well, do you procrastinate on one task, then you procrastinate, or do you procrastinate on a variety of things? That makes you a procrastinator. 20% of men and women, no significant gender difference. 20% of people, all right, will not RSVP on time and wait till the gauge goes on empty before they get more gas, or get the third bill before they pay it. They're going to miss your birthday and your anniversary and Christmas, and you'll get the cards later if you get anything and all that. And they'll always have an excuse.
That's me.
Which for them.
That's me.
Yeah, of course.
What do you mean, of course? Okay. That's me.
Well, you showed up 20 minutes late. So
no, I did not. We had a schedule, and the schedule was to start the pre-interview at 10 o'clock because most guests tend to be a little overwhelmed and a little nervous because of the reach of this show. And so we have a process in place. I was not intentionally delaying. I'll defend myself there.
I expected I'd see you right away, but irrelevant. All right, but it's a good example of what we're talking about. How would someone else know that?
That's true.
So somebody, unless they're told that. All right, and then the person who, quote unquote, shows up late, all right, says this is what's going on. And that's believable because procrastinators are very good, as I was saying, good excuse makers. They always have a reason, and it's logical, and it makes sense. The problem is the next time the same thing happens, and the next time, or in another setting. So that's what makes us suspicious after a while. And we say, wait a minute, it's never your fault. It's never your fault. I don't know you, so I'm not saying this is true of you. Please do not be offended. I'm trying to explain, how this is a good case of what we're talking about.
Yes, I agree. So let me ask another question. So how do you know if, in fact, you are a chronic procrastinator, that you're part of that 20%? What are some of the signs so that somebody can go, this is beyond just a funny thing or something that frustrates me. This is something I really need to sit up and pay attention to.
Okay. So again, this is somebody who RSVPs, shows up late, who may show up consistently to different events, misses sporting events and concerts because they never get the ticket on time. They You know they're going to be late for gifts. They drive their car on fumes because they're always late getting the gas or whatever they may need. So you notice in a variety of settings. If you find yourself doing it at home, at school, at work, in relationships, that you're always doing this way, then, and if other people, can get annoyed by you and tell you that you're a procrastinator, you may be a chronic procrastinator because you're doing it across time and across space. In science, that's what we look for consistency. Does it happen from day to day or time to time? And does it happen across location to location, time and space? So you have to see how well. Now, if it's only one task, I really don't like doing the dishes.
Right.
I really don't like, for me, it's cutting the grass. I am dressed like I'm going to go cut the grass. So I have all these excuses. It's been raining and it looks like it's going to rain again today, but I'm not a procrastinator at all. You ask me to do something, you'll get it done. But that's something I will delay doing. Ask yourself, do you do this in different locations at different times? Have people told you that you're delayed? And as I said, this is men and women. There's no significant gender difference. This is young and old, urban and rural, different cities and the farm areas and the rural areas. No difference. All races. There is a difference between white collar and blue collar. White collar procrastinate more. Let me make your listeners understand, because I understand you have a lot of countries here, that this is not just a U.S. thing. This is not only a Western culture, because I've collected data with colleagues in Britain, Australia, Canada, Germany, Poland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Spain, Ireland, Italy, Peru, Venezuela, Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Japan, South Korea. We're currently doing Iran, and I'm doing some more studies with people in Turkey. And I'm finding 20%.
Wow.
So this is really global. Now, the next question is, well, then is this genetic? Are we just human nature? Are we born this way? No.
What?
No, we're not born procrastinating. Oh, yeah, some people will say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. That's just who I am. I'm always, no. You learned to be a procrastinator.
From who?
You can unlearn it. Oh, from dads. But we'll get, you
dads?
Want to go there first? Yeah. So you learn to be a procrastinator, all right? So you can unlearn it. That's very optimistic. That means you're not condemned this way. Yes, you can teach old dogs new tricks. You just use a different bone and it takes them longer, but you can unlearn it. If you're born that way, if that's just who you are, then let's
you're
call it
screwed.
a day. Then it's over. Then it's nothing I can do with it. And that's, unfortunately, too much of our culture is this way. Well, that's how they are. That's how people are. No, people can change. Let's be much more optimistic.
Dr. Ferrari.
In my rambling.
Hold on. I need to tell you something.
Okay.
I love you.
Thank you. Don't tell my wife, but that's okay.
I love you because I believe the same thing. Of course you can frickin' change. Yeah, it's hard, but of course you can. And so what you just said made me take a deep breath, because I 1,000% fall into the category of being a chronic procrastinator.
Do you mind sharing a little bit what that means to you, please, publicly? Are you okay with
of
that?
course. Absolutely.
Okay.
So all the way back to my academic career at Dartmouth College and Boston College Law School, every single paper was an all-nighter.
Yeah.
Every single test was a cram session. I was late to every class. You asked me to do something, I'll forget. When you said birthdays, the bane of my existence is that I forget birthdays. I hate that about myself. I literally hate it about myself. Anniversaries come up on me with my husband. We've been married for 27 years now.
Congratulations.
I forget to book plane tickets. I leave something on a plane everywhere I go. And I also have dyslexia. I also have been diagnosed with ADHD. And so I have this story that there's nothing I can do about it. And that in some ways, when I think about the creative process, that I need this burst of adrenaline. Like there's something about the last minute scramble that gets my ass going and gets my brain churning. And I don't know if that's a story. I don't know if that's a habit. I don't know what the hell it is, but it drives me crazy. It makes me mad that I'm terrible at time management. It makes me embarrassed when I'm late. My husband calls it Mel time. And let's say we have to be out at a dinner with friends at 6 o'clock. The drive is 10 minutes. It is 20 minutes to 6. Chris is dressed. He's already fed the dogs. He is walking toward the car. I am running around looking for my phone. I have one shoe on. I go into the bedroom, and now I think I have time to make 3 calls and make the bed and change my clothes. And Chris literally will be sitting in the car in the driveway while I am running around the house like a lunatic trying to find things. And I never equated the last minute scramble actually with procrastinating. I equated it with poor planning, with
excuse making.
Excuse making.
I gotta shut up. I'll let you go on.
No. It's true.
Because when you stop, I've got a whole bunch of stuff to say. But keep going.
What I procrastinate on is paperwork. I miss paying bills. I lose my credit cards all the time. I'm constantly without a cord charger for my phone. My gas tank. I feel like my form of gambling is to see how far I can go. And then I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Okay. And it's this constant battle.
All right. May I jump in now, Ms. Robbins?
Yes, you may, Dr. Ferrari.
So you said quite a few things, so thank you for sharing with us all of these items. And in no particular order, I've jotted down some things as you were saying them, so I want to go through them. You started off by telling us about your academic procrastination. All right. What I have found is that 70% of college students will delay writing, studying, going to that mentor, doing all these things. And 70%. Now, remember, everybody procrastinates, but not everyone is a procrastinator. So the college student might delay studying, reading, writing a paper, cramming at the last minute, doing all that. They may do it. But if there's a free keg of beer in the dorm, they're there. If Lady Gaga is giving a concert for the first 50 people, Lizzo's in the other room, they're there. Yes. Then they're not procrastinators. They procrastinate. When you started off, I was saying, oh, okay, then she's an academic procrastinator, not a chronic procrastinator. But then you did move into other realms. You gave me a nice list of all these different tasks that your 5 million followers have said. My question to all of them, that is very nice, but is that the only thing that you're procrastinating with? Because then again, if it is, then you're just procrastinating. You're not a procrastinator. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, maybe some of your listeners are, with a concept called meta-analysis. It's a research technique.
Yep.
Okay, and for those who are not familiar, a meta-analysis, a scientist takes previously published studies, takes all of them, enters them into a formula, and looks to see what's most effective based on these bodies of literature. 2 of them have been done on interventions to deal with procrastination. The least effective technique, the technique that will not work with procrastinators, is time management. What works is CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, because you need to change the procrastinator's way of thinking, cognitive, and the way they act, because it's not a question of time management. Time management, stop. It's not going to work. Change the way you think, the way you act.
How do we do that?
Well, you start with this.
You read the book, Still Procrastinating.
You start
awesome.
with the book, and then you go find a good PhD clinical psychologist who's cognitive behaviorally trained, and you stop the excuse making. One of the things I talk about is they're very good at the but howevers. Oh yes, I was going to do that, but I could have done, however. So your listener, who's a chronic, will listen to this, go, well, that was very interesting, that was entertaining, but in my case, blah 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 blah. You know, I understand. However, for me, see, so, look, there's, as you know, the concept of, well, let me write something else down, please, if that's okay.
Sure.
There are 3 myths, and you touched on one of them, about procrastination, and that is, I work best under pressure. You told me about that one too. I got to wait till the last minute. Do these procrastinators, do they work best under pressure? The short answer is no. All right, so we brought them in the lab. We had them work on a series of tasks and experiments and a series of studies. They had more errors. They did less. But when you asked them, how did you do? I did great. I did so much better than everybody else. All right, so you don't work best under pressure. That's one of the myths. You don't work best under pressure. You think you do, all right? But you actually do more failure. Thrill seeking. And I heard ADHD and other kind. There's only been one study ever looking at ADHD and procrastination, and I did that in the 90s. With 3 samples, 2 normal and 1 clinical sample of people diagnosed with ADHD, and found no relationship.
What do you blame it on?
On yourself. Why didn't you manage your time? You can't manage time. Indecision is a form of procrastination. It's a cognitive form. It's called decisional procrastination. We're reinforced by our culture for being a procrastinator because our culture reinforces procrastination. You know, we don't reward doing things early. We punish for being late in our culture. If I don't pay my bills on time, I get a fine. I get an extra charge on my credit card. If you're like me and my wife, in our 39 years of marriage, we pay ahead of time, all the time. I get the bill, I pay it because I just want to get rid of it. All right. All right. So at the end of the year, did they ever come back and say, thank you very much? Here's a little extra gift. Here's 2%. No. Our cultures don't reward us for doing things ahead of time. They punish us for being late. Christmas shopping. Holiday season is coming up. If I wait to Christmas Eve, I get 70% off. I get 80%. Why should I shop earlier? I better wait till the last minute because look at what I'm going to get. In fact, give me a gift card and I'll go after Christmas and I'll get even more because people aren't stupid. I say flip it, baby. I say do it the other way around. Make that 70, 80% off Thanksgiving time. And then it gets less and less and less. And if you wait till Christmas Eve, there's a 20% surcharge. April 15th, taxes. Why should I pay my taxes earlier? There's no incentive. There's no reason. You know, if I have to pay, let's just say the person has to pay, well, I'm going to send it in on April 12th, April 14th. I'm going to do it the last minute. No, government's got it wrong. Again, reward for doing early. We have to reward for doing early, not punish. I am not in favor of punishing for being late.
That makes sense. So how do you as an individual that recognizes that you are a procrastinator apply rewarding being early to your own life?
We can talk about that. But let me also clarify from the beginning, I'm not a clinical psychologist, all right? And so I don't believe, as a research psychologist, that we should be doing street corner philosophy like this. Tell me the magic bullet, because that isn't how life is. You know, you need to understand the person and their dynamics, all right? You're asking me, as everybody does, just tell me the cure. Thank you for the causes, thank you for the consequences, but I want the cures. Well, life isn't like that. But I'm going to respect your question in terms of asking of that. One technique you can use comes back from the 1960s, the Premack principle. David Premack was a psychologist who found that you can use high rates of behavior to reinforce low rates of behavior. What does that mean, Ferrari? In other words, you can take something you like to do as a reinforcer for something you don't like to do. So you don't like doing the dishes. Okay, so you say to yourself, I'm going to wash these 5 dishes. If I wash these 5 dishes, then I'm going to watch Wheel of Fortune for 5 minutes, or whatever the heck it is that you like. If I do 10 dishes, I do 10 minutes. So you're making something you like to do as a reinforcer for something you don't like to do. Been around a long time, all right? That's called the Premack principle. Public posting, another thing from the 60s that was around, or 60s and 70s. Very easy today. Publicly post. Researchers found years ago that if you publicly post something, in those days it was a piece of paper outside your office door or something like that, so people could see it, some high traffic area. This is what I'm going to do. This is what, needs to be done. Then you're much more likely to do that than not. Today with social media, use it. Say publicly post it to your friends. Guys, I need to do this, and this is what I do. And if I don't do it, don't let me buy the tickets to the concert. I can't come out with you Friday night to go to the bar, okay? And hold me to that. There's a fundamental question that is like, why do people do this?
Yes. Why?
Yeah, it's so maladaptive for Ari. I hear you now. There's these myths, and it's irrational, and it prevents me. All right.
And it causes pain.
And it causes pain for you and others. And by the way, another set of studies we've done. Procrastinators don't like other procrastinators. They don't want to hang out with them. They blame them for the failures of everything. Yeah, very interesting. So if you're a procrastinator and you think I'll get sympathy from other procrastinators, you're not. I am so friggin' tired. I am so tired of people thinking it's time management and just you're lazy. You're not lazy. You're working your butt off doing something else. Okay? You're not lazy. All right? If I take my time doing something, if I don't meet the deadline and I delay, then I can simply say, I didn't have enough time. I know this is not the best thing. This is as good as I can get it. But if I had more time, I would have done better. So lack of effort is not a positive image, but it's a better image than I did it and it's a piece of garbage. If you put something together and it's good. So people would rather have other people think that they lack effort, hence I procrastinate, than lack ability. Because I can't change ability. The next time I can try harder. So there's this attribution tendency that people have. Chronic procrastinators. Procs would rather have, are very concerned about what we call their social esteem. As a social psychologist, procrastinators are very concerned about protecting their social esteem. Now, you know what self-esteem is. That's how I feel about myself.
Okay.
Social esteem is how others feel about me. And I would rather have others think I lack effort because I want to maintain a good image.
This is a question from Vicky. Vicky writes, I'm trying to become a fashion and beauty blogger and earn money from it full time, but I have some kind of mental block and procrastination problem when it comes to actually pushing myself to do anything related to that goal. This is something that we hear about all the time, that you have this huge goal, yet you cannot seem to push through the mental block, that you have something that you want to do full time, but you can't seem to beat procrastination. This is something that we see over and over and over again. And it's this idea that you don't ever start. You stay trapped in your head. And if you feel paralyzed, if you've been spinning the same ideas over and over and over again, then you know what I'm talking about. You see, many of you are thinking way too fucking big. You're attaching way too much pressure on the things that you're interested in. Until you start blogging about fashion, you won't even know if you like it. So thinking that you have a dream about doing it and thinking that you have this grand plan that you're going to do it full time, it is a complete and utter waste of your time to be dreaming that big. And let me tell you why. Because oftentimes, if you're the kind of person like Vicky that's getting trapped up here, the bigness of what you're thinking about is what's stopping you. What I want you to do if you're in Vicky's situation is I want you to stop dreaming and I want you to just start doing small things. I want you to go back to curiosity and less into crushing your big goals. The thing about life and business and success is that you have to be willing to start. And for people that procrastinate, starting is the hardest part. For people that worry, for people that think too big, starting is the hardest part. Folks that study procrastination talk about the fact that the only way to beat procrastination is to create what they call a starting ritual, which is a way to push yourself to get started. Because all the research shows that if we can push you to get started on something, you'll likely keep going. So, Vicky, the only way to get out of the mental trap is to stop fucking thinking and actually start doing it. And maybe thinking that this is going to be your full-time employment, that's the wrong way to go about it. I want you to literally just commit to writing some sort of blog about fashion every day for a fucking week. That's it. Don't think about full-time. Don't think about the bigness of it. Actually start doing it. You may discover you don't like it, for crying out loud, but you're never, ever, ever going to advance if you continue up here. How do you force yourself to do it? Well, you can use the 5-second rule for that. You can wake up in the morning and say, today I'm committing to making small progress on this thing I'm curious about, which is fashion blogging. You can find time when you're going to sit down, and then the second that it's time to do it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and start writing. Here's what you can expect to experience if you're somebody like Vicky who has trouble getting out of the thinking loop. The second that it's time to actually move from thought to action, you will become a first-class asshole. You will feel resistance. You will struggle with what you're going to write. You will start to feel like it needs to be perfect. You're going to come up with excuses. You're going to talk yourself out of it. Why? Well, because you're used to thinking, and now you're asking yourself to do. Why am I explaining what you should expect? The reason why I'm explaining what you should expect is because it's normal to feel those things. It's normal to feel scared. It's normal to feel like you don't want to do it. It's normal to think about doing it perfect. Letting those things stop you is a choice. So, let me recap. You're the kind of person like Vicky that's got all these big ass dreams, but you can't get out of your thinking loops. You can't stop procrastinating. You can't stop thinking about it. You get overwhelmed, and so you do nothing. The only solution is micro action. That's it. I don't want to hear shit about your big goals. In fact, for everybody out there, I don't want to hear shit about your dreams and your goals until you're actually taking the actions every day for a couple weeks straight. You don't get to talk about your dreams until you can prove that you wake up and every single damn day you push yourself to take one small action forward. If you can do that consistently for a month, then you can start talking about your dreams. Then you can start talking about how you make money at it. Then you can start talking about how you build skill around it. But until you can actually get your ass out of bed and make the commitment to yourself to do the actions required to become a blogger, or to be a blogger, not become, to be a blogger, to be somebody that's in the restaurant business, you're just all talk.
Leela is up next, and I love this because she listened to the episode we recently did that you guys loved. Holy cow, it was one of the most shared episodes on Spotify. I'm so glad you got a lot out of it. And a lot of you responded to the fact that I connected your habit of procrastinating to the fight or flight response that we have when we get stressed out. You know how when you get stressed, you have that fight, flight, or freeze. Procrastination is a form of freezing. And so that episode is Procrastination, the Only Way to Stop Procrastination, based on research. Again, we will link to it in the show notes. And Leela had a follow-up question on that, and here it is.
Mel, this is a huge thank you. I'm an artist, and also I procrastinate, and I get stressed, freeze, and then end up doing nothing. I heard what you said on the procrastination episode, and I think wearing the stress backpack is super heavy right now, and I plan to shed it today. I need to manage my time better. So now I need to figure out how to get back to my easel and start painting. I can't wait for your next episode. Thanks so much, Leela.
Hey, it's Mel, and I just want to talk to you since you're watching this on YouTube. First of all, thank you for being a fan of the Mel Robbins podcast. You have made us one of the top-ranking podcasts in the entire world. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because it's your support that allows our team to bring this to you at zero cost. And so that's really important. And I don't want you watching this on YouTube while you're driving a car. Will you take me with you by subscribing to the Mel Robbins podcast on your favorite podcast platform? Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher. You can listen on Audible. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, please subscribe to The Mel Robbins Show. It really matters for a growing show like ours, and it allows us to continue to bring you all this great stuff at zero cost. Okay, let's go back to the show. Leela, I'm so happy you're on our walk today with me and that you shared that, because procrastination is a form of lifestyle overwhelm. And in case you haven't listened to that episode yet, as you're taking this walk with us, when Leela said stress backpack, she's using a term that I used in that episode to basically say all those things that are going on in your life, the things that are causing you stress, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you literally carry it around with you as if all that stress is in a backpack. Joni, my friend who was caring for her mom, backpack of stress.
Everybody that you've heard on our walk today, the demands of their life, the pressure that they're putting on themselves, all of that is a stress backpack. And you have one too. And what happens when you feel really stressed out is you can start to freeze. And then what happens when you freeze and you push things off and you procrastinate? You get stuck in lifestyle overwhelm. You're in this vicious cycle of pushing things off and then beating yourself up and then feeling overwhelmed because you're pushing things off that you really want to get to. And so what is the tool here? Because there's a huge lie that you tell yourself when you procrastinate, okay? And I can hear it. And the lie that we tell ourselves is, I can handle this all in my head. That if I think about it, I'm working on it. Not true. Not true. It's one of the reasons why I use that tool of a brain dump all the time, to get it out of my head, to not manage it in my head. Because if it spins in my head, it turns into rumination and nothing gets done. Just like those blank walls. Those pictures are not getting done by me spinning thoughts about it. And so the real thing I want you to understand is that if it truly matters, you have to schedule it. Things that matter end up in your calendar. And so one tool that I want you to use, Leela, is ask yourself this. This is a journaling prompt that you can use, everybody, that I just love. How can I make this easy? How can I make this easy? What's the simplest way that you can make it easier to paint? And for me, I'm going to share with you, I have to do the things that are important first thing in the morning. It's not that I'm not an evening person. It's that by the end of the day, I am so wiped out and just gassed. I don't have the stamina or the willpower or the energy to force myself to do things that require energy. David Goggins, who I just love, he has his alter ego, Goggins. Goggins pushes himself and has the mental discipline. And I freaking love that. But I don't want to set up my life so that every night I've saved the thing that really brings me joy. I have to summon up what researchers call, and we've talked about this in other episodes, it's called activation energy. Csikszentmihalyi, who's a famous psychologist from the University of Chicago, studied motivation and flow states extensively and realized that this resistance that we feel to doing things that we've put off, that requires activation energy and getting out of bed, pushing yourself to paint. For me, it's exercise. And if I put off exercise till the evening, it's not happening. It takes me 100 times more energy to drag my ass to that Peloton treadmill at night than it does to drag my ass to that Peloton treadmill in the morning. And so ask yourself, how can I make this easy? Maybe you need to do it at night. Maybe that is easier for you. Maybe you need to do it in the morning. Maybe it's the weekend. Or maybe you need to, if you can afford it, you need the structure of a painting class. One of the ways that I jump-started exercising, and I realize not everybody can afford this, but one of the ways I jump-started exercising was to start taking classes again. Because I would pay for it, and then I was motivated to go, and I knew once I got there, I could outsource the motivation to the instructor that would be yelling at me. Maybe you need a friend to do this with you, or you need somebody that's going to be your accountability partner and be really annoying on Saturday morning and text you and be like, hey, did you paint yet? I'm not meeting you for a walk until you did. And you can trade that kind of thing. I think a lot of you know, for example, that I do a lot of the ice baths, where you climb into a really cold barrel of water, or you jump into an icy pond or a river up here in Vermont, or you take a cold shower. Do you know how I make it easy? I do it with Chris, my husband. Chris is like living with a monk. The dude is so stoic. He just kind of climbs right in there. No big deal. He shames me into doing it. That's how I make it easier. He goes in first. Now I'm like, oh God, now I got to do it. But if I have to do it myself, it's hard. And so that's what I want you to understand. Procrastination creates overwhelm. And chronic procrastination creates a vicious cycle that becomes lifestyle overwhelm. And so understand that. And that's huge that you understand that. And then the second thing I want you to do is remember, get it out of your head. Don't manage it there. It's got to get scheduled in real time. And then ask yourself, how can I make this easy? Because you can. And there's no reason why the things that you need to do have to feel so hard. And the reason why they feel so hard, everybody, is because we're not taking the time to go, okay, first of all, am I in a lifestyle overwhelm situation where I need to be kinder to myself and I need to have more compassion for myself and I need to keep reminding myself that this is a marathon and I need a little bit of stamina and I'm not going to be able to get to everything. I remember when I was doing the talk show, I had this experience where most of my team came from Oprah Winfrey's talk show and from her organization. And so I was surrounded by all these people that were super, super experienced. And my executive producer arranged for me to talk to a really, really famous talk show host whose show is no longer on the air. And this guy spent like an hour talking to me, and I'll never forget what he told me. He said, Mel, being a daytime talk show host, doing 175 shows in 6 months, this is a marathon. He said the most important thing that you could do is protect your stamina and be kind and patient with yourself. And you're not going to be able to live your normal life. You're not going to be able to go out to dinner with friends because if you tape 3 shows in a row at CBS Broadcast Center 4 days a week, you are not going to have energy. And by the way, you can't afford to get sick because the show must go on. And so right now, tell your family and your friends that you love them, but you are about to go into a bunker right now and you are about to focus on this. And then when you come up for air, you will be able to focus on having fun again and being with everyone else. And I think there are times in your life like that. Maybe you're studying for a dissertation. Maybe you are in the middle of applying to medical school. Maybe you're going through a divorce or you've lost somebody that you love and you're grieving. That is a moment of legitimate overwhelm. And the best thing that you could do is identify it, call it out for what it is, and be kinder to yourself and remind yourself that if you are, you'll have the stamina to move through this. And you will move through this. And there will be a time in your life where you will not feel this way. But for now, it's about putting yourself first. And for those of us that are also struggling with lifestyle overwhelm, it's okay. You now know. And now you have free, proven, research-backed tools that you can use. You got your brain dump. You got your rule of 3. Remember, it doesn't fucking matter. You can do the photos later. Nobody cares but you. And make it easier. Make it easier. That's it. And this stuff is so powerful. Like, it works so quickly. You don't realize how quickly you could break out of overwhelm because, like me, you've probably been stuck in this vicious cycle for so long that it's just the air you breathe. But there is something so much better that's available to you. You can create a better life. And that's why I wanted you to hear from a listener named Michelle last. And pay attention to the joy and the lightness in her voice. I wanted to invite Michelle on this walk with us because I want you to know that this is available to you when you finally take back control and you stop letting overwhelm run your life.
Holy shit, Mel. I just listened to your podcast on procrastination and it changed everything. You're the first person I've heard talk about money anxiety, oh my God, in a way that resonated with me. And you know what? I paid a credit card bill today that was 6 months late. I was in freeze mode. And when you said that on the podcast, I burst out crying. I mean, it was like a gut punch and you thawed me. I paid that damn bill this morning and all of a sudden I realized I have more time on my hands. Like I was sitting there wondering what I was supposed to do. I had energetic time because I'd been thinking about this bill for 6 months. I've been torturing myself and holding myself back from my greatness. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, what if it doesn't have to be hard? What if I can do the damn thing? Thank you so much, Mel. I'm really forever grateful.
Ah, Michelle, I'm forever grateful. And I'm really proud of you. And the thing I want to really highlight, because I can hear the energetic freedom. I can hear how light you are. And what I want to point out is, until you do the damn thing, you don't realize how much thinking about something and avoiding it and feeling overwhelmed by it, how much it's robbing you of energy. I relate to that because I feel that way about that damn picture wall. And I've gone through periods of my life where I didn't pay my bills because I couldn't pay my bills, but I thought about my bills all the damn time. Overwhelm is torture. Feeling like you're stuck in a vicious cycle where you got to do more, or you got to move faster, or you got to put this, it's just pressure and it's keeping you stuck there. And so now you know the truth. You can focus. You can prioritize. You can use the rule of 3 and just focus on doing the important things. Not everything is important. And when you stop acting as if it is, you will able to get done what needs to get done. See, overwhelm goes away the minute you start to take control. And that usually happens, honestly, with a simple pen and a blank piece of paper. That's it. Do the brain dump. Pick 3 things. Tell yourself, that doesn't fucking matter today. Remind yourself that anything that is an emergency bubbles its way to the top. And always ask yourself, how can I make this easier? How can I take the pressure off? How can I do the damn thing? And just pick one of those 3 and get started. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pay that bill. Make that call. Write that next paragraph. Roll out that yoga mat. Pick up that guitar. Or for me, write that eulogy. And then on the plane ride home, log into Shutterfly and see if you can find all of those photos that used to be stored there. Do what you've been avoiding. Follow the rule of 3 and give yourself a fucking break if you're feeling legitimate overwhelm, because it will be over. But you have a choice over whether or not it's your lifestyle anymore. And for crying out loud, stop telling yourself those 4 lies. No, you can't handle it in your head. No, rushing won't make you fit it all in. And no, everything's not of equal importance. And no, you don't need to do more. In fact, you need to do a lot less. You just need to do the things that really matter to you. And when you do that, you, my friend, are going to get your life and all of that energetic time back. And I so want that for you. Whew. I feel better. I hope you feel better. I wish you were here so I could give you a hug. You know, after a great walk with a friend, you give each other a hug. And you're like, okay, when are we doing this again? We're doing this? Yeah, you know when we're doing this again? We're doing this on Thursday. And between now and then, I want to make sure I tell you, I love you. I believe in you. And I believe in your ability to really focus on what matters to you and go create a better life for yourself. And so today we're going to focus on the components of a $1 million morning routine. And these are all based on research. And the thing I want you to think about is this. I really believe in something called behavioral activation therapy. And said very simply, behavioral activation therapy is the concept that if you want to change, if you want to be a better you, just start acting like the person that you want to be in the future right now in your day-to-day life. That the actions that you take today are what will turn you into the person that you want to become. And look, I know you have a vision for yourself. There is a version of you that you hold in your heart and in your mind that you see that is a better version of the person than you are right now. The you that has a better, more fulfilling job or career. The you that is truly enjoying a deeper connection in your relationship or marriage. The you that has better eating habits, better physical habits. The you that really is experiencing a better connection to the meaning and purpose in your life. That life that you envision, you're capable of achieving it. You can do the work to make that version of yourself a reality, but it's not going to happen out of thin air. You got to put in the work. And I personally believe that that work begins first thing in the morning. That every single morning you can wake up and experience a clean slate. You can wake up and you can create a morning routine. Not that the you right now likes, but the morning routine that the future you needs. And the bottom line is, whether you consider yourself to be a morning person or not, a morning routine is essential. A morning routine is like the first domino. Let's just agree that every single day of your life, you wake up and you have the opportunity to create a new experience in your life. And that first series of decisions that you make, which are basically your morning routine, it's like the beginning domino that falls. And if your morning routine sucks, like my morning routine used to suck, the first domino that falls in your day is procrastination, stress, anxiety, depression, suckiness. And that tends to trigger a whole lot more of that. Now, let's talk about the other option. Have you ever had a morning where you rolled out of bed because you had to be somewhere? You actually met a friend at the gym, and the exercise class was not only not that bad, it was kind of fun, and you felt really energized and proud of yourself for going, and you were set up for the meeting that you had, you were prepared. What's it like when that domino falls? It feels good, doesn't it? It makes you feel confident and alive and proud of yourself. It kind of creates this energy and this motion in your life. And that brings me to a simple statement. The solution to almost all the problems in your life is your morning routine. If you were to get serious about creating a morning routine that makes you feel like $1,000,000, that sets you up with the structure and momentum and positive choices that act like a domino, that send you into your day feeling like you have started the day off with a bang, checking the right boxes, getting it done, feeling proud, putting yourself first. Imagine how the rest of your day flows. You see, how you set your day up is how it ends up. Say it again. How you set your day up is how it ends up. And if you are serious about making more money or making change stick or getting things done or just feeling happier or finally learning how to put yourself on the list, let's get laser focused on your morning routine. Because when you get laser focused on your morning routine and setting yourself up for success from the get-go, it's pretty amazing what flows from there. And so before we get into the components of my $1,000,000 morning, I want to tell you about the old Mel. And for those of you that listened to the episode that we did about how to create an evening routine that truly sets you up for success in the morning, you have heard part of this, but the old Mel was a complete flipping disaster. I don't even recognize the sad sack of a human being that I used to be. I was addicted to my excuses. I was addicted to my alcohol at night. I was addicted to feeling miserable and to complaining about my problems. In fact, you want to know the first decision I made every single day? For years, decades, in fact. The very first decision that the old Mel Robbins used to make, I'd hit the snooze button. Now let's just stop and unpack that, okay? You wake up, the alarm goes off, the sun is out, you have a brand new day in front of you. There are people around the world that died in the middle of their sleep last night. They didn't get another day. But you, my friend, you got another day. And instead of waking up, getting up, making the most of the next 24 hours of your life, you know what the old Mel Robbins used to do? Hitting the snooze button is procrastination in its biggest form. But you're not procrastinating on a paper. You're not procrastinating on a project. You're not procrastinating on a call or a chore. You're procrastinating on your fucking life. You're basically going, the first decision I'm going to make today in this miraculous thing called life is to not do it. I'm just going to avoid it altogether. I have the option to make the most of this time. I have the option to put myself first. I have the option to move my body, to practice mindfulness, to go outside and listen to the birds. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to procrastinate. I think I'm going to avoid it. I think I'm going to roll over. I think I'm going to just opt out. And for me, I can now see that since the first decision I made was to avoid doing what I needed to do, it's so fucking obvious why I was a chronic procrastinator, because I began every day like that. And as you hit the snooze button and you avoid facing your life and you avoid facing the day, you're not feeling confident. You're not feeling energized. You're not feeling in control and empowered. You are basically embodying your excuses, your fears, your anxiety, your frustration, your fatigue. It all begins with the decision you make first thing in the morning. I believe that. And the reason why I'm being overly dramatic about this is because one of my biggest problems in life is that I avoided the hard stuff. I had a million reasons why I couldn't fix things or get a new job or pay off my bills or why I couldn't make things better or why my husband was to blame. And so if you're sick of your excuses, if you're sick of snoozing on your dreams, if you are sick and tired of letting procrastination and doubt and overthinking and anxiety run your life, let's talk about your fucking morning routine. Because let me tell you what the life of a chronic snooze button person looks like. It begins in the morning. You hit the snooze button 4 or 5 times. That was me. I'd stare at the ceiling, think about my problem, snooze, snooze, snooze. And the rest of the day, guess what else I was doing? Snooze, snooze, snooze on the problems. Avoiding the phone call I needed to make. That's hitting the snooze button on that. Avoiding the networking I needed to do. That's hitting the snooze button there. Avoiding the hard conversation I needed to have. That's hitting the snooze button there. Blowing off the gym. Another snooze button. It's not just about how you wake up. It's how you wake up, how you set up the day. That's how it ends up. The snooze button, that is just one example of the series of disastrous choices I would make for myself. Whether it was hitting the snooze button 5 or 6 times, waking up late, not giving myself enough time, skipping breakfast, never having time to exercise, never being organized about anything. It was just honestly a nightmare. And I always say you are one decision away from a different life. And one of the things that has changed my life is deciding that I didn't want to do that anymore. That hitting the snooze button every single morning was not going to help me change my life. So when I finally got serious about first getting out of bed, and then secondly, creating a small series of promises that I make and keep to myself every single morning, it was a game changer.
Mel, what's the difference between being lazy, being procrastinator, having excuses, and doing nothing? So let me attack those one by one. Being lazy is fine. Like if you know you're lazy, more power to you. That's great. You know what's great about lazy people is they don't make themselves wrong. You know you're an overachiever if you beat yourself up when you're not doing everything that you need to be doing. People who are truly lazy do not give a damn about the fact that they're not doing anything. You know people like this. They're not motivated. They don't care. They're not looking to change the world. They don't care. And here's the thing that I feel about human beings. If it works for you, do it. Because it's your life. Nobody said that you have to go change the world. If you enjoy your life and you consider yourself to be a lazy person, you're winning at life because you enjoy it. And so we could all learn something from lazy people because people that are truly lazy have no problem being lazy. So that's number one.
Number 2, procrastination. Procrastination is a habit that is triggered by stress. Let's say that again. Procrastination is a habit of avoiding what you need to do because you're stressed out. And there's a lot of research around this. So I'll explain it very, very quickly, and we'll do a much bigger episode around it. But when you are procrastinating, it's typically because you need to do something that requires brain power. And when you're stressed out because mom is sick, or you got to pick up the kids at school, or you have a big assignment at work, when you're stressed, the idea of having to tap into more brain power and more energy to focus on something else, that's the last thing your brain wants to do. And so your brain is going to want to avoid working on that project, or avoid cleaning out the back bedroom, or avoid having the hard conversation, or avoid the research paper. Why? Because it's going to require you to focus and tap into brain power, and you're already so stressed because of everything else that avoiding those things when you're stressed becomes a habit. That's all that procrastination is. And there's a simple way to break the habit of procrastinating. Research shows that if you simply force yourself to start the project, like literally walk into the back bedroom that needs cleaning and start cleaning. If you simply force yourself to start, and obviously the 5-second rule, counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, best place to start, 80% of the time you'll keep going. So procrastination is a habit, okay, that's triggered by stress. The only solution is just start. The third piece that you said was excuses. So excuses is when you are actively campaigning to not do something. That's what an excuse is. It's when you are convincing yourself not to do something, okay? Do you notice that all 3 things that I just explained, being lazy, procrastinating, and excuses, those are things that are very busy. When I'm asking you to do nothing, I'm asking you to be hyper intentional about unplugging for a second. Hyper intentional about removing the stress, removing all of the pressure that you feel. I'm asking you to do something really positive for your mental health, for your stamina, for your energy, for your resilience, for your presence. That's what doing nothing is. It's not being lazy. It's not procrastinating. It's not an excuse. It's literally just allowing yourself to take a break for a second, because you deserve that. I really want to talk to you about transitions. And we are in a moment of time when this episode's going to come out where there's tons of people graduating, and that's a major transition. And I am personally bracing. Dr. Marquez, I'm bracing. Our daughter is graduating from college.
Oh my God.
I can feel the panic attack happening. Graduation is in 10 days.
Wow.
She is then going to leave California and come home for the summer.
Wow.
And she is an artist, a singer-songwriter, so there's no defined career path. Mm-hmm. And I know that the bottom is going to drop out. Why are transitions so damn hard?
Well, I can feel the pain already for you, Mel. Like I can just feel like your whole voice changed. And there's so many people in the same boat. In fact, the world is in transition since COVID. It's a major transition. This is how I think of a transition. Before we even talk about why it happens, or why it's so hard, is the way I see transition is somebody wants to go on a journey. Okay. And there's this idea of this dream life, this thing that you want to do. And some are voluntary, some are not. Like your daughter is finishing, it's voluntary transition after college. And she has this whole life ahead of her. And so that's exciting. But then there is the old, right? And the old I see as the shore. And so in transitions, we're like holding on to the shore of what we know, the certainty of the things that we know sort of worked. It's no longer working, by the way, because you want this dream life. And then the boat starts to leave and you're holding on to shore and you're holding on to the boat and you start to get stretched thin. And that's what we start to feel. It's that panic that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's that anxiety. It's that uncertainty that happens. But we're so afraid of discomfort. We avoid discomfort so much that we just continue to hold on. And this is the first thing I want to say to everybody. Let go and start swimming. Let go and start swimming, because there is no ticket to a perfect life, right? That holding on is avoidance. And how many people have we heard that stay in a job they dislike, right? It's like holding on to certainty. I mean, I'm in the major of a transition in my life, in a career, and I'm as scared as you are. But like, if I just hold on to Harvard because that's what makes me good enough, then I'm never going to get to explore the world.
Wait a minute. What's the transition you're in the middle of?
Well, so, for the past year and a half, I really hit a wall at Harvard and Mass General. And I love what I did in terms of research, but I felt like there's so much more that I could do to help so many more people. I wanted to have an impact in the global world in terms of mental health. I wanted to bring that down. And let's be honest, an academic paper is not going to do it, right? It's just not. But I've been terrified to let go of this position and this academic self to jump into this like public speaking, writing books. And I don't have a path for that. And so like when people ask me what I do now, it's like, well, I do a bunch of things. And eventually I'll talk about like the integration of it. But like it is scary in transition. It really is. The first thing we all have to talk about is there's fear there.
For sure. There's fear there. Well, I'm, of course, on the other side of the table from you. And I'm really excited because I see a huge opportunity for you to make a massive impact by spending more of your time in the public realm, sharing your work and helping and impacting millions of people's lives by writing books and doing whatever else you may do. But I want to go and talk about the fact that when you write about transitions, especially here in your new book, you talk about values. Like, what is the intersection of the transitions that we all have to go through in life? Whether you're going to move, or you're breaking up, or you're changing jobs, or you're thinking about your dreams, or college is ending. What is the intersection of values and transitions?
So values are so important. And yeah, most of the time when we talk about them, I feel like values are like painting somebody's house. You sort of know they are there, but you don't pay attention to them. So let's define values first, right?
Okay.
Values are intrinsic motivators. There are the things that matter the most to us, the things that should be our compass in life. Family, religion, wealth, integrity, right? And so what is the intersection between values and transitions? Well, in transitions, our values are questioned. What matters the most to us? Let me give you a personal example to make this come to life for everybody. Early on in my career, ambition was the value that mattered the most to me. Okay. And once you have a value, then we set goals with those values. For me, it was getting into graduate school. Then I had to go get into Harvard. Then I was an instructor, so I wanted to be an assistant professor, right? Ambition was the value, and then I set clear goals to those values. Eventually, I got to associate professor. The day I became associate professor, a colleague of mine said to me, so what are you going to do next to become full professor? And that question bothered me. I was like, but do I want to be a full professor? I had driven ambition because, see, ambition got me out of poverty. Ambition got me out of Brazil. Ambition is how I define how I would never go back to be poor again. But no longer ambition was working for me, Mel. I'd lay in bed at night and I had all the success in Harvard, and yet my brain was just not happy. I couldn't sleep. I put on 40 pounds, right? And I kept saying to myself, what if I just write another grant? What if I just write another paper? I don't have the right to feel the way I do with all the privilege I have. And so ambition no longer was serving me, but I kept going at it. And one day I was sitting in my office writing a grant, and half of my face went numb, just numb. And the first thought I had is, Lana, this is anxiety. You're unhappy at work. You're writing a grant. This is just anxiety. Next thing you know, half of my body starts to tingling. And I'm terrified. And then the next thing I thought is, oh my God, I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
I'm having a stroke. So I called the nurse. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm an anxiety researcher. I treat anxiety. This is just anxiety. I want to say myself, but like half of my body is numb. And I just end up at the doctor. My husband like drives me. I'm crying. And at that point, I remember going to my primary care Mel and saying to myself, oh my God, I hit rock bottom. Like, this is no longer working. I know what I'm doing is no longer working, but now I'm about to lose everything, right? I avoided for so long, and now I'm having a stroke. And what if I can't speak again? What if I, like, everything in my life that I had worked so hard was right in front of me. And I just had this moment of like, holy shit. Like, holy shit. I've avoided for so long by following this value that no longer served me.
Yeah.
And just to avoid my transition. That's all I was doing. I was avoiding this transition. And so it turned out that I wasn't having a stroke, thank God. And they think it was a severe migraine. I've never had a migraine in my life. I don't know. The neurologist, like, it was 48 hours of hell of like trying to just look. And that's when I faced reality. Like, that moment was when I paused and was like, I cannot avoid this transition anymore. I'm no longer actually living a value-driven life. I'm living an emotion-driven life. I'm just trying to not feel uncomfortable. So I keep doing the things. And you asked me an important question in the beginning. Why this transition is so hard, right? Why does it hurt so much? Is because it creates so much discomfort. And in that moment, I was just avoiding it. I was just avoiding it. And I couldn't avoid it anymore. And I just hope, and the reason I share this with people is I hope people wake up before they hit that wall, because we hold on to the old so much to not go towards our dreams. And I nearly killed myself in the process. And look at this. And think about how much skills I have. And I still avoided it.
How do you figure out what your values are?
So one of the exercises I use with my patients that I use that day is to actually do the opposite of what anybody does, which is to lean towards the pain. In the days after that nearly stroke, I sat with myself crying early in the morning for many mornings, saying, why does this hurt so much? What about this hurts so much? What is it that is missing? Like, what is in my life missing? And what I realized is pain only exists because behind that pain, there is a value that's extremely important that's being violated. It's not that I didn't care about ambition anymore. Is that what I really cared about is I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world. And I knew that the things I was doing were not aligned with impact. They make impact on the patients that I work for sure, but I saw the world hurting. I saw the rise in anxiety from the CDC of 40% of Americans with clinical level of anxiety and depression. And here I was sitting in my little house with all the skills that my grandmother gave me, that science gave me, and I wasn't doing anything with it. I wanted to create a podcast. I didn't have a podcast. I wanted to write a book. I hadn't written a book. I wanted to go out there and meet people like you, and I wasn't doing it. And when I leaned into that pain, I saw impact, and I was like, wait a minute. I need to change my entire life. I need to change what I do. And so that's my recommendation. Lean towards the pain and ask yourself, why does this hurt? Because somebody is an asshole to you, okay? Right. They say something mean to you, you just say they're an asshole. But if somebody that you love very much says something like, you hurt me tremendously, now it hurts you.
Yeah.
It hurts you because you probably care about that person, because you probably love that person. It's not just that said something mean, it's that it violated a core value.
Wow. So I'm trying to think about the example between kind of the transition that you're describing, which is one that I recently went through, like probably over the last 2 years, of, again, achieved incredible success, but at a cost. And I knew that there was something that I valued more than chasing more success. Mm-hmm. And it was about connection and impact and peace and family and simplicity and artistry. Like, it was about, and you can have more than one value, right?
100%. You can have more than value. But slow it down for us, Mel, if you don't mind. Because, like, I just love what you're saying. But, like, can you just tell me a little bit about the beginning of this transition and, like, chasing success and no longer feeling like success did it?
Well, yeah. Like, I think, like a lot of people, somewhere along the line, I got the subliminal or subconscious message that achievement equals love.
Yes.
That if you're performing, if you're busy, if you are making a lot of money, if you're winning awards, if you're doing things that people talk about, that means you're worthy of somebody's love and attention.
Yes.
And so having that be a really big motivator. Like, you say ambition. I would say if I went a level deeper, it would be love and self-worth.
Yes.
That was a value that I was trying to create in myself. Of course, I wanted to make an impact. Of course, I, wanted to creatively express myself and connect with other people. But my work allowed me to do that. But there was still something that I was pushing up against.
Yeah.
Because what started to happen for me is that once I got to a level of success where I had paid off our debt and I was actively saving money and I could afford to do kind of whatever I wanted to do. I'm not talking Lamborghinis and that kind of crap, but like just had a really great lifestyle and was proud of myself. I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And like you, I felt like an asshole. You didn't use that word, but I'll use that word with myself. I'm like, what kind of an asshole are you? You're sitting here making an impact on millions of people's lives. You are able to stand on stages and share a message that changes people's lives. You are being flown first class all over the place. You can afford to eat anywhere you want. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And what was wrong with me is one of my core values, if I put it into the language of your work, was severely violated.
Yeah.
I was profoundly disconnected from my husband, profoundly disconnected from my kids and even my more extended family because I never saw anybody because I was working. I had exactly 2 friends that I saw. And so I was profoundly lonely.
That's it.
And I was never not working. And so I just was like, something's got to give. And what actually gave is March 8th of 2020.
Yeah.
When my talk show got canceled and all of a sudden the world turned upside down and I found myself like the entire planet found themselves questioning absolutely everything. And what the greatest gift of that massive global transition was for me is it made me really assess what my values truly were. And when my husband and our 3 kids were then under one roof together, it made me realize how much that's all I wanted to do was be with them. And when I started to do my work, not on stages and not by getting on planes, I'm like, you know what, Mel, it's time to stop talking about and thinking about doing a podcast. It's time to get serious about it. Yes, you have integrity, so you got to wrap up a lot of obligations to be able to do this the right way. And yes, operating with excellence is part of your value. So it's going to take some time to launch the way that you're going to want to launch. But that was the moment for me. It was values driven. And I asked you the question about how you figure out your values because it's a surprisingly hard thing to do.
It is so hard. It is so hard. And you actually unpacked so much because, I think the world has gone through a value shift in this pandemic.
How so?
Because the values that worked before the pandemic no longer fit for most people, right? People now, we hear people talking about they want more flexibility in their job. They want to work from home. Why? Because they realized the family mattered and it was being compromised by the way they worked and did their family time. Right? But most people, Mel, haven't had the privilege of what you have of being able to pause and reflect. Right? A lot of people are still in the treadmill of life. That's what I see in my office. People call me and they're still trying to fit their old values to this post-pandemic life. It needs a realignment. And how do you find your values is your question. So I talked about pain. The other way to find values, which I think is what happened to you, is this: lean into the moments that you feel your best. Okay. What about the moments? What's so important, right? You talked about being with your family. The way you said, my 3 kids and my husband, you lighten up. I could just see you in your living room with them during the pandemic. And I could, if I went behind your brain, I could see just Mel being content, connected, and present.
Yes.
Right? Versus Mel on the stage was impacting a bunch of people. But then you're in that plane and you're craving that connection, that real connection with family. And so in those moments of like flow, in those moments of quietness, ask yourself, what matters in this moment? Why is this moment important to me? Why do I feel good? And that's, our values are right there. Like I know this, I do dinner with my family every day. Okay. And connection and family are two of the values for me, are super important. So much so that, I came to see you, and I'm flying to Miami this week, and I'll be gone for my son for 5 days. My husband looked at me and said, you know what? I think we should come with you, because you need that connection before you're away from him. It's not going to feel good to be away from him Sunday and Monday, and then the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And so pulled him out of school. They came with me. And this morning he said to me, can we stay an extra day? I really like it here. And just that made me feel so connected with him, right? And so those moments allow us to be connected.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.